So, I know this isn't like my normal videos, but I recently made a change in my life that helped me substantially, and I really wanted to share it in case it could help any of you watching. It's about living in the moment. I know this has been preached before, but it wasn't until recently that I made the right steps in my life to follow that lifestyle. The thing is, I'm a hopeful person, I'm a wishful thinker, a dreamer, whatever you want to call it. When it comes to my future, I'm a huge planner. I have this thought that even though I can't control my future, I can get pretty close to what I planned. Now, I know all these traits we can agree are good, but as the old adage goes, you can have too much of a good thing. And that directly applies to my mindset. In the past, I would buy lottery tickets in hopes of winning big. And that might seem harmless, especially because I would only buy like 5 a year. But the problem with a wishful thinker is that the day that I would buy the ticket, I would daydream until the moment I found out I lost. That means I would stop everything I was doing to think about what I was gonna do when I win. And yes, in my mind, I'd be so convinced that I was going to win that I would research wealth management tips and houses I would want to walk through to make sure it was good for me and my family. So you can see where this becomes a problem. And unfortunately, this wasn't something that would happen while I was playing the lottery. I would do this with everything. It would become this vicious cycle of me wanting something so badly, my mind would immediately manifest scenarios that I would believe are going to actually happen, stopping everything I'm doing to plan out how I was going to manage that dream and completely losing all the time in the day I had to be productive. This vicious cycle led me to have this I wish mindset or why me mentality. My view on life started getting darker without me even noticing. But then I had a wake-up call. I was getting sick a lot. In one of the moments where I was lying sick in bed, I thought back to college when I was exercising consistently, eating healthy, barely getting sick. So because of that, it led me to reevaluate my life and how I would think about my surroundings. Because back then I was hopeful, I worked out 6 days a week, and I had a community of people that I was always around. Compared to the darker moments of my life, I was working a 9 to 5, I didn't exercise, and I lost my community. So I started taking steps in the right direction. First, I deleted my state lottery account and cut ties with gambling altogether. Because of this, the shift in mentality took a couple of weeks, but it was a night and day transition for me. Instead of the I wish or the why me thoughts I normally thought of, I started thinking about the day in front of me and what I wanted and needed to accomplish. My views on what I could do for the day started getting me excited. I started thinking I have a lot more time in the day too, which was kind of weird and awesome at the same time. However, one thing did still linger, and that was thinking about my future on a daily basis and trying to stick to a plan that I set for myself. The fix for this is still something I'm working on today, but it helps anytime I'm feeling anxious. The second step was overriding my thought process, and still is overriding my thought process. It sounds complex, but what worked for me was actually pretty simple. I would repeat something over and over in my head until I was thinking only about that thing I was repeating. For example, I have an extremely active mind at night, and my future pops into my head, and I try problem solving nonsense or non-issues instead of sleeping. In moments like that, I would repeat the phrase, "I have no control over anything." Something like that would drown out my thoughts, and out of nowhere I'd notice my mind is empty and I could fall asleep. So with those two things fixed, I had one issue left, and that was the issue of no community. In college, on the weekdays, I would work out with my friends, and every Friday we'd play a sport depending on the weather. Then on the weekends, we'd go to a movie or go out to the bars. After college, we all moved away from one another, and a sense of isolation led me further down into the why me thought process, and a new one of I wish I could rewind, because I missed those times so much. As you can imagine, the I wish I could rewind thought was just as bad as future thinking, because I was living in the past and not in the moment. So for this, the fix was actually a tough one, because it was all predicated on my friends' schedules. Two of my friends always talked about D&D. I never thought I'd be into something like that or interested in it at all, but I decided to listen to a podcast and see what it was all about, and I found myself laughing and thinking about what I would have done in the situations they were in. So I reached out to them, and I tossed the idea of us getting together for a session, and it stuck. We would meet up every couple of months, play a single session, and since then it evolved into a larger group of friends getting together every night and playing video games. My sense of community felt like it was back, although it was virtual because of the distance. It was still that missing piece I was looking for. My "I wish I could rewind" mentality died down a lot, but it still does pop in my head, but more in the sense of reminiscing over actually wanting to go back. Overall, I wanted to share this because of how drastically these 3 small steps changed my perspective on life completely. For myself, it took removing anything that would cause wishful thinking, it took overriding my thought process when I was anxious, and finally creating a sense of community in my life. None of these are easy by any stretch of the imagination. However, they are achievable with a bit of practice and persistence.